Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are for the first group. Today we will presentation about the characteristic of a good language test. My name is Fitri Alfa Mima, and then my friends Anindya Diva and also Rahayu. Today we will presentation about what is the characteristic of good language, and the second is 5 characteristic of good language test. First, the characteristic of good language test. A good language test should have a positive effect on learning and teaching. Tests itself are a procedure for measuring ability, knowledge, or performance while testing its use of tests. A good test have some characteristic qualities. There are 3 most important of a characteristic. First, there is reliability. The second, validity. And the last is practically. According to the reverse, each test is not an end itself, but it means to the ultimate end of effective language mastery. On the other side, the test should enable the teacher to find out which part of the language program causes difficulty for the class. In this way, the teacher can evaluate the effectiveness of the syllables as well as the method and material they are using. Although language testing is a fundamental part of learning and teaching in school today. Okay, the next is 5 characteristics of good language test. Today we will presentation about 5 characteristics of good language test. In order to describe as a good test language should be. First, there is reliability. Reliability is consistency, dependence, and trust. This means that the result of reliable tests should be dependable. They should remain stable, consistency, not be different when the test is used on different days. There are 3 there are 3 aspects of reliability test. First, there is equivalence, and then stability, and the last internal consistency. So, what is equivalence? Equivalence is measured by administering 2 parallel forms of the same test to the same group. It's mean like reverse to the amount of agreement between 2 or more tests that are administered at nearly the same point in time. The second is stability. Stability is assessed by administering the same test to the same individual under the same condition after some period of time. This is occurred when similar scores are obtained with repeated testing with the same group of respondents. The last is internal consistency or homogeneity. Internal consistency or homogeneity is concerned the extent to which items on the test are measuring the same thing. Okay, the next is there are 3 factors affect test reliability. First, there is the length of the test. The second, there is the administration, and the last, there is effective status of student. So, what is the length of the test? The length of the test, it's mean like longer test produce for more reliable result than very brief quizzes. And the next, the administration of the test, It is which include the classroom setting like lighting, seating, arrangement, and etc. The last, affective status of student. The example of affective status of student is like test anxiety can affect student test result. From this test, they will be know how can anxiety affect student, and also they can find the effective way to reduce this case. Okay, for the next material will be presented by my friends. Thank you.
Okay, for the next material is validity. According to the reverse, a valid test is one which actually tests what the designer of the test intended it to test. According to Lado, is a degree to which a test measures what it claims to measure. So, validity, the term, refers to whether or not the test measures what it's claimed to measure. On a test with high validity, the item will be closely aligned to test's intended focus. Content validity is the extent to which the selection of the tasks in the test is representative of the large set of tasks of which the test is assumed to be a sample. A test needs to be a representative sample of the teaching contents as defined and covered in the curriculum. Like reliability, there are also some factors that affect the validity of test scores. Factors in the test: unclear direction to students to respond to the test, the difficulty of reading vocabulary and sentence structure, too easy or too difficult test item, ambiguous statement in the test item, inappropriate the test item for measuring a particular outcome, inadequate time provided to take the test, the length of the test is too short, the item not arranged in order or difficultly. Factor in test administration and scoring. Unfair to individual students who ask for help, cheating by students during testing, unreliable scoring of essay type answer, insufficient time to complete the test, adverse physical and psychological condition at the time of testing. Factor related to student. First, test anxiety of the student. Second, physical and psychological stage of the student. Okay, for the next material is practicality. According to the Bashman and Palmer, practicality is a relationship between the research that will be required design, development, and use of the test and the research that will be available for this activity. So, a practical test is the test that is developed and administered within the available time and with available research. Practicality refers to economy of time, effort, and money in testing. A practical test should be easy to design, easy to administer, easy to mark, and easy to interpret its result. Therefore, our judgment of the language test is whether it is practical or impractical. A test is practical when it first, it's not too expensive. Second, stays with appropriate time constraints. Third, is relatively easy to administer. And the last, has a scoring or evaluation procedure that is specific and time efficient.
Okay, the next material, discriminate. An important feature of a good test is its capacity to discriminate among the performance of different students or the same student at different point in time. So, the test is used to assess or compare. For example, a teacher gives a test to student A and student B about vocabulary to find out how much they understand and how much vocabulary they know. Next, authenticity. Bachman 1991 defines authenticity as the appropriateness of a language user's response to language communications. Bachman and Palmer 1996 defines authenticity as the degree to which a given language test task characteristic corresponds to a target language use task features. Authenticity relates a test task to the domain of generalizations to which we want our scores interpretations be generalized. Other definitions of authenticity are rather similar. The dictionary of language testing, for instance, state that a language test is said to be authentic when it mirrors as exactly as possible the content and skill under test.
Okay, the conclusion from this presentation is what and in order to evaluate student properly is to utilize an assessment tool having the feature and quality of a good test highlighted above. A test should be constructed with the goal of having students learn from their weakness. It will locate the exact area of difficulty experienced by the class or the individual student. So, the assistance in the form of additional practice and corrective exercise can be given. The more a test has good qualities, the accurate result a tester can draw about the test and right decision would be taken accordingly. Thank you so much. That's all our presentation today. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.